All right. Okay, we are live again for our final Giving Tuesday webinar. This webinar, we're going to be going over 3 questions that have been submitted to Compass Catholic, of lots of questions that get submitted, but ones that I think are appropriate for a lot of people, and we get these ones submitted actually quite frequently in different variations. So we're just going to give it a minute or so until people come online, and we're going to talk about the 3 money questions that we're going to answer. All right, so we are on YouTube, we're on Facebook. When you join us, if you want to put where you're from in the notes or in the comments, and we can kind of see where people are joining us from. It's always fun to see where people are joining us all around the world. Our studies are taking place in South America, in the US. We have studies in Malaysia and other countries. So wherever you're at, drop that in the comments. And all right, so we're going to go ahead and get going. All right, 3 money questions we're going to talk about today. These are ones that are submitted frequently and that we give answers to. And I'm going to keep them pretty basic. We're not going to go too far into the weeds of these questions. But if you have any questions about my answers, put them in the comments and we'll talk about them during this webinar. The first question we're going to talk about, and this one was submitted from a podcast listener. Dear Compass Catholic, I'm working on paying off some debts, but I'm wondering what else I can do to improve my credit rating. All right, so your credit rating is really important, right? It's not just in regards to whether you can secure new debt or not. Insurance companies check your credit rating. Landlords, when you go to buy a vehicle, those kind of things, they check your credit rating. So it's really important, not just for the ability to get debt for cheaper should you need it, but it has a bunch of other purposes as well. So I can see why this person is concerned with making sure their credit rating is, where it should be. So really the major thing you need to do when you're trying to work on your credit score, your credit rating, your credit report, and I want to take a step back. I want you to think about your credit report like the trunk of a tree, okay? And like the roots of a tree. The credit score is like the leaves. You want to water the tree, pay attention to the report, and the score is going to organically follow. So often we get stuck on the score and then we forget about the importance of the report. Focus on the report, the score is going to follow. Okay, so the most important thing you can do to affect your credit score is to pay, and your credit rating is to pay your bills on time, every time. On time, every time. Your bill payment history is 30% of your score and of your rating. So it's really important that you pay those bills on time, every time. So if that's not something you're in the habit of doing, get in that habit yesterday. So make sure you do that on time, every time. The second thing that you can do that's actually quite easy, and it is technically free, is you can review and correct any errors on your credit report. I want to say 1 in 5 people, it kind of varies a little bit, but about 1 in 5 people have some kind of error on their credit report. And that can be dragging down your score. Like that could be why you're getting rates that you think are not appropriate for you. So order your credit report from annualcreditreport.com. That's the one website that was mandated by the federal government to be set up for people to pull their credit reports, annualcreditreport.com, and order your credit reports on there. You can do it one of 2 ways. You can either order them all and get all 3 in one fell swoop, or you can set a timer, maybe like on your calendar, where it reminds you every 4 months to pull one of your reports, because you have 3 reports that you're entitled to every year: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And you can either get them all at once or space them out throughout the year. So pull that credit report and look through it. Are there any name misspellings on there? Social security numbers that you don't recognize? Addresses that you never lived at? Different things like that. You can also see who's pulling your report. Are you having new credit inquiries that you didn't authorize? Those are the kind of things that you can dispute and you can have taken off your credit report so it improves, again, your credit score. So that's the next thing, is review and correct any errors. The next thing you could do is to keep your credit utilization ratio to 30% or less. Your credit utilization ratio tells your creditors essentially like how close you're getting to the edge, right? They don't want you to see your balance go near 30% of your available balance. So if you are able to say your credit card is $1,000, you want to keep your credit utilization below 300 and don't let your balance go above that 300 mark. Once it goes above that 300 mark, that 30% mark, it's going to flag to the credit bureaus that you may be at a risk of going over indebted. So keep your credit utilization below 30%. And then the last thing I want to talk about is often, especially with those old credit cards that we've had for a while, maybe the interest rate isn't as good, or maybe we have a new card that we prefer, better perks or whatever. Even if you don't use that card that often and that's your oldest card that you have open, maybe you got this card in college and, at 18 and you've had it for a while, you probably want to consider keeping that card open because your length of credit history is based on your oldest credit card, right? So if you close that credit card up, now your credit history comes up to the next most recent card that you had open. So if you have a credit card, like I said, you've had since 18, even if it's not your favorite, you may want to consider keeping that open to keep your credit history long and improving your credit report, thus improving your credit score. Okay, so those are things you can do to improve your credit rating. We're going to move on to the next question. And I see some people in here in the live event. Put in the comments where you're from. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments as well, and I can answer them live. It's good to see everyone here. The next question we have is, Dear Compass Catholic, my husband and I have a lot of credit card debt. Oh no, right? We've been thinking of using the equity in our home to pay off debts. We plan not to use the credit cards any longer once we get the home equity out of our home. Do you think this is a good option? No. Generally, this is not a good option. When we think about debt is kind of like, our body being sick, right? Debt is the symptom, and the squeeze in our budget, that's a symptom, but we're not treating the real issue, the real disease, which is overspending, maybe not having a budget, maybe not being properly insured. We're not treating that real issue. So we want to go back and we want to figure out what is the issue that led to debt. Debt is a symptom of something else. So what led up to that debt? And if we were to go ahead and just get a home equity loan and pay that debt off at a lower interest rate, the debt doesn't go away, it just gets moved, right? And theoretically, it's at a lower rate, so you can get it paid off faster. But we're not treating the core issue of the debt. And I want to remind you that HELOCs and home equity loans, those are some of the bank's favorite products because banks really have nothing to lose. I mean, if you were to default on the loan, they can come after you and get your home. So for them, it's a very low risk, high return investment. For you, it's a very high risk and very kind of a scary thing because now you've moved this unsecured debt that theoretically you could get rid of in bankruptcy should you need to. That's another topic for another day. But now you're moving that debt onto your home, and you can lose your home if you were to not make those payments on that debt for whatever reason. So generally, it gets me so nervous when I hear about people doing this. There are other options to consider. Okay, so instead of jumping to the home equity in our home, let's consider some other options. The first one is to really get on a budget and to work that debt snowball. Just work that debt snowball, organize your debts, and get those debts paid off fast using that debt snowball. So that's number one, is to get on that budget, do Faith and Money Matters, our 6-week Bible study, really learn about your role as a financial disciple, get on that spending plan, that budget, and pay that off. So that's option one. The next option is to possibly do a balance transfer to like a 0% card because you're keeping the debt unsecure, right? So I don't love it. I'd rather you really get to the root cause of the debt, and you should do this probably in addition to, getting on the budget and doing the debt snowball. But you can look for a card with a 0% balance transfer and work that debt snowball and get that paid off within that period of time. They're harder to find now that we are, since COVID started and everything else. They used to be much more common to find, but they're still out there, so look for them. And if you are someone who is really struggling with a lot of credit card debt, for whatever reason that you got into the debt and you can't even make your minimums anymore, you're going to have to make an appointment with one of our coaches because we can walk you through your options at that point. If you're making your minimums, but you're not really getting any traction, what I want you to do is look into a local nonprofit that offers something like a debt management plan. Debt management plans through a nonprofit, because there are some sketchy for-profit ones, but they may be an option for you where they can reduce your interest rates and they can reduce your fees and stuff like that associated with their credit card, get you onto one monthly payment, and then you agree to take on no new debt during the course of the debt management plan. There are some good ones out there through different nonprofits, but you got to be careful with these because sometimes there are for-profits that will add on like a hefty monthly fee. So some options to consider instead of using the home equity in your loan, because I get so nervous every time I hear that. Home equity is, they can take away your home, and it's something we've seen happen before. Third question. I love this question because this is so appropriate to the times we're in right now. Dear Compass Catholic, my wife is now working from home and her company has no plan of bringing her back into the office. I've been thinking of selling our second car. We would no longer have a car payment and we could use the money from the sale to grow our emergency fund. Is this a crazy idea? So maybe a year ago, I would have said, never heard of that happening before. But we are in crazy times and people are selling their cars for more than they paid for them. No longer are people necessarily upside down, especially when they buy used cars. They're no longer upside down as soon as they drive off the lot. It's such a weird time that we're living in. So it's an option. It's something to look at. Go talk to a dealer, see, or, private sale, whatever, see what you can get for your car, and see if it's possible that you can sell your car, make some money on it. Now you no longer have a car payment, and you can use that additional sale money to build up your emergency fund to pay off debt. Really, wherever you are on the Compass Catholic Money Map is going to determine your next step. But I want you to take a moment and consider, do you really need that car? Because I know in the letter here, it says your spouse is working from home. Her company has no plan of bringing her back into the office. Well, someone still has to get to work, right? There may be kids' activities in the afternoon. It may be not possible to be a one-car family. There's other options. Maybe we can carpool where you can make it work. So I think it's important that the spouses sit down together and work out a plan. So it's not one spouse making a decision for both of the spouses, that both are in, on this decision. But really, in this day and age, now that we can, actually make money on used cars, which is crazy. Who's ever heard of that before? It may be worth selling your car, no longer having a payment, and then putting the surplus funds towards that emergency fund or credit card debt, wherever you're at on the money map, and being in a much different financial position. You're also saving on maintenance of that extra vehicle, insurance of that extra vehicle, gas for that extra vehicle. So it could be really financially beneficial, but always check with your spouse. This is a spousal decision between the two of you. All right, so those are the 3 questions that were submitted to Compass Catholic, and I'm not seeing any other questions in the comments. If anyone wants to throw them in there now, if you have a question, we can take it before we end our live event. But I do want to remind you that it is Giving Tuesday. It is Giving Tuesday. Compass Catholic is a 501c3 nonprofit ministry. We operate on the sale of our books, and we operate on generous donors' donations. And we've been so blessed as a ministry. There's so many donors that have seen such value in this ministry. It's affected their lives in so many ways. We hear so many beautiful stories all the time. So if you have been affected by Compass Catholic, we encourage you to go to compasscatholic.org and donate. You can also donate from our Facebook page. And I want to remind everyone that everyone who donates today gets a free copy of Your Money Counts, which is a wonderful book. It's not too long of a read. You can read it in a few evenings before going to bed, that talks about all things financial discipleship. And we define financial discipleship as obedience to God's word every time life intersects with money. And that's what we do at Compass Catholic, is we teach and we make financial disciples. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the comments. I'm going to wrap this up today. Again, Giving Tuesday, compasscatholic.org. You can go to donate, and we will definitely be good stewards of those funds. Have a great evening, and God bless everyone.